The first time Annabelle entered the Ashford mansion, she noticed there were no family photographs on the walls. Only mirrors. Tall mirrors framed in gold. Every hallway reflected the same thing, over and over again. Wealth, perfection, and people obsessed with appearances. 6 years later, Annabelle would understand why. Because in that house, people were not loved. They were displayed. Controlled. Used. And if they broke, they were quietly replaced. When Annabelle married Theodore Ashford at 23, newspapers called it a modern fairy tale. The billionaire heir from one of Boston's oldest families had fallen in love with a quiet waitress from rural Tennessee. People envied her. Women studied her wedding dress online. Talk shows discussed her Cinderella story. But nobody asked why Theodore Ashford chose a woman with no money, no connections, and no powerful family behind her. Nobody asked why a family, obsessed with status, welcomed someone so far beneath them. The truth came slowly. And then all at once. The Ashford mansion sat on Blackwood Hill, overlooking the Atlantic Ocean like a fortress. Cold gray stone. Iron gates. Windows were so tall, they made people feel small. Annabelle arrived carrying 2 suitcases, and the nervous excitement of someone entering a life she could barely imagine. Theodore kissed her forehead before the staff opened the doors. "You'll get used to things quickly," he told her. But what he really meant was, "You'll learn the rules." The rules began immediately. Breakfast at 7. Dinner at exactly 8. No speaking during Theodore's father's political broadcasts. No visiting town without permission. No discussing family matters outside the house. By the second week, Annabelle realized something unsettling. Nobody in the mansion laughed naturally. Every smile looked rehearsed. Even the servants moved like frightened shadows. Then came Evelyn Ashford. Theodore's mother. Elegant. Controlled. Beautiful in the way marble statues are beautiful. Cold. She studied Annabelle constantly. Not openly. Never directly. But always watching. One evening at dinner, Annabelle accidentally used the wrong fork. The table fell silent. Evelyn dabbed her lips carefully with a napkin. "In this family," she said softly, "we value refinement." Annabelle apologized immediately. Theodore said nothing. Later that night, Annabelle cried quietly in the bathroom. Theodore found her there. At first, his voice sounded gentle. "You embarrassed me tonight." Then his hand wrapped around her jaw. Tight. Painfully tight. "You will never do that again." That was the first moment Annabelle felt fear. Real fear. The violence began slowly. A shove against the wall. Fingers gripping too tightly. A slap disguised as frustration. Then apologies afterward. Flowers. Jewelry. Expensive gifts. Theodore always knew exactly how to blur the line between cruelty and affection. Until Annabelle no longer trusted her own judgment. When she became pregnant with their first child, things became worse. Not better. Worse. Evelyn treated the pregnancy like a business arrangement. "The Ashford bloodline must continue properly," she would say. Annabelle was assigned diets. Schedules. Doctors chosen by the family. Even the nursery was designed without her opinion. By the time her son Caleb was born, Annabelle no longer felt like a wife. She felt like livestock. Useful only because her body produced heirs. Theodore's cruelty evolved with terrifying precision. He never left bruises where cameras might see. Never hit her where guests would notice. But inside the mansion, there were no limits. Some nights he forced himself on her, while she cried silently into pillows so the staff would not hear. Other nights he locked her in the wine cellar for disobedience. Once, after she tried calling her younger sister secretly, Theodore smashed the phone against the wall beside her head. Glass exploded across the floor. "You belong to this family now," he whispered. "You don't need anyone else." The isolation became complete. Her family stopped calling after months of unanswered messages. Friends slowly disappeared. The Ashfords controlled everything. Money. Transportation. Communication. Even food. There were days, Annabelle was deliberately denied meals because Evelyn claimed she needed discipline. The servants noticed. But nobody intervened. Fear ruled that house more effectively than locks ever could. Then came her daughter, Isabel. And something inside Annabelle finally began to change. Because Caleb had already started copying Theodore's behavior. At only 4 years old, he once grabbed a housemaid's wrist and said, "You answer when an Ashford speaks." The words froze Annabelle's blood. That night she stared at her sleeping children, and realized something horrifying. If she stayed, they would become like them. Or worse. They would learn cruelty was normal. The opportunity to escape arrived unexpectedly. During a winter charity gala, the mansion overflowed with guests, reporters, and staff. Security became distracted. For the first time in years, the house felt chaotic. Uncontrolled. Annabelle had spent months secretly preparing. Stealing cash in tiny amounts. Memorizing train schedules from newspapers left in the library. Hiding copies of medical records Theodore forgot existed. Photographs. Voice recordings. Bruises carefully documented over years. Evidence. Not for revenge. For survival. At 2:13 a.m., while snow covered Blackwood Hill, Annabelle walked out through the servants' entrance, carrying nothing except a backpack and a folder hidden beneath her coat. She paused only once. Outside Caleb's bedroom. Her hand trembled against the door. Every instinct screamed at her to take the children. But Theodore would wake within hours. The police would search immediately. 2 small children would slow everything down. And if she failed, they would never let her near them again. Tears streamed silently down her face. "I'll come back for you," she whispered through the door. Then she disappeared into the snow. By morning, the Ashford mansion erupted into panic. But Annabelle was already gone. No phone. No bank cards. No digital trace. Only silence. And for the first time in 6 years, silence felt like freedom. What would you have done in Annabelle's position? Would you have escaped alone or risked everything to take the children with you? Comment below. And subscribe to her Silent Strength for Part 2, where Annabelle returns 5 years later to fight one of the most powerful families in America for custody of her children.